Welcome back, Tributes, to episode 67 of Into the Arena. I'm Holly,
And I'm Emily.
aka Clemencia Dovecote, but we'll talk about that. And we are so excited I'm so excited. I'm speaking for you.
I'm not that into this anymore. Let me just go.
You're like, can we actually talk about something else today? We are talking about Lucy Gray Baird, favorite character from Ballad, but we have some important announcements and our giveaway from our last episode. So, first of all, like always, join us for Tribute Talk Thursday nights, 6:30 Pacific, 9:30 Eastern. I literally have that memorized. I like say it
Me
in my
too.
sleep.
It's a good
Um,
time.
it's so fun. So join us for that this week. And then we are finishing, oh my God, I can't believe summer's gone. We're finishing our entire read along with Scholastic this week. So we're finishing up with Ballad. We read Hunger Games, Catching Fire, Mockingjay, Ballad. Like, I can't believe we went through that this whole summer. So hopefully you joined us for some of it. If not, you can always go back and enjoy the content. And you can now also find the podcast on Amazon Music and I believe on Audible. So in
Ooh.
case you're wanting to stream there. But before we dive into our episode, we have from last episode, if you're watching, we have our wheel. We're ready for a giveaway of the magenta copy.
Ah!
So without further ado, let's see. I'm going to press my little button. These were all amazing comments. Like, seriously, so thoughtful. It was a very thoughtful episode. Shout out to Gabby. Thank you all for interacting. The winner is at Mar1100. MAR. Oh, that's
Oh,
like
I think
reversed.
maybe they were in the live stream that we
Mm-hmm.
had earlier today. Because
I'm
today we had our Academy celebration live
mm-hmm.
stream.
Yeah, so at Mar1100, send us a message, preferably on Instagram if you can. Send us a DM. If not, just comment on this YouTube and we'll get in contact with you to send you your copy of the magenta version of Ballad. So congrats.
Yay!
So exciting. And without further ado, speaking of Ballad, let's just dive right in because if you're watching, you can see I'm wearing my one rainbow cardigan, and then we have an Academy student here. So clearly we have some Lucy Gray,
Am I
Lucy
anti
Gray,
Lucy Gray? I don't know.
but we love Lucy Gray. So
I
I
do
feel
love
like she's
her.
definitely also grown on you. Like
Oh,
she's grown
yeah,
on me
for
and
sure.
grown on you, but I think just watching us read these books over and over and interact more and more, I think we both, and seeing the trailer too, is just so exciting.
So, who is Lucy Gray Baird? She's from District 12, kind of. She's part of the Covey, which was a traveling entertainment group before the rebellion, and they kind of got stuck in District 12. So, she's not really District 12 and doesn't consider herself really to be. Her name, Lucy Gray, comes from the William Wordsworth poem titled the same as her name. She ends up being a tribute in the 10th Hunger Games, and she is the original District 12 victor, ultimately, that Katniss's references in the first Hunger Games book. And we don't know what
Mhm.
happens to her either. I mean, some people think she's alive, some people think that she's dead, that she didn't make it, but really her fate is unknown.
I think that's one of my favorite questions now, like to ask new fans that I interact with is like, what do you think happened to Lucy Gray? Is she alive? Is she dead? And the theories are just insane. Like, let's go through them. I have the theory Lucy Gray is Greasy Say. The new theory is that she got pregnant with Coriolanus's child and then had Katniss's mother. I don't know. And then she's Katniss's grandmother.
Mm.
She's President Coin. Like there's so many different fan theories about if she survived, what did she end up doing? Who did she end up becoming? So, I mean, Emily and I have talked about this and we'll get into it, but definitely thinking that unfortunately Lucy Gray Baird is no longer with us post Ballad. So
I
we'll
know,
dive into
me
that
too.
later. But always a fun question. So I want to hear comment, share with us what happened to Lucy Gray Baird in your world. Like, what do you think? What are your theories? Always a fun question. But what I love is that we actually were introduced to Lucy Gray in The Hunger Games, the first book. we weren't introduced to her by name, but Katniss refers to there being an unknown second victor besides Haymitch before Katniss in District 12. So I always thought that that little anecdote was really cool. And then we physically connect and meet with Lucy Gray at the reaping for the 10th Hunger Games. So all the reapings connect from the Hunger Games to Ballad.
Going back to the beginning, when we found out that Ballad was going to be released, I think the first trailer that came out for the book said that there was going to be a girl tribute from District 12. And I'm just kind of curious what you thought when you first found out about that.
Interestingly enough, I didn't actually know that information before, like when it was announced.
Really? So
So
you just went into the book reading it, not knowing it was going to have any District 12 character?
I all I knew was it was about President Snow. Like I didn't really
Hmm.
follow anything about it until was it the day before where Suzanne read the first chapter of
Yeah.
Ballad. So that was kind of like the first information that I interacted with, knowing that there was going to be a District 12 female
Wow, you just got it full force. Suzanne reading and like with
like
her slight accent and
like
everything.
serious. I was like, what is going on? And so when I first picked up Ballad, it's like a core memory that I was sitting outside and I was reading it and I was like, I don't like her. I felt like when I first read Ballad, it was almost like we were trying to fit a mold of Katniss. And I think that's something that like I actively have recognized as not legit, like not real. Like Katniss and Lucy Gray are two very different women.
Hmm.
And I think at the time, and I think what a lot of fans, I might be assuming, but what a lot of fans did when they read the books was there was a lot of upset emotions with Lucy Gray because everyone's like, well, why are you trying to make her Katniss? So that was just my initial thoughts. But what were your initial thoughts when you heard?
Honestly, I was not upset about the book featuring President Snow
Mm-hmm.
at all. Um, but my first reaction to the fact that there would be another girl from District 12 definitely didn't make me happy. I was a little
Mm-hmm.
or a lot apprehensive, honestly, because I thought that this character was just going to be another Katniss, or we were trying to make another Katniss, which I mean, I should have had more faith in Suzanne. And I
Mm-hmm.
think I did to some extent, but like I couldn't envision that playing out well because I'm
Mm-hmm.
not Suzanne Collins. I'm not a writer. Yeah, I was a little more upset that we were featuring another District 12 character than President Snow or anything else.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, yeah, she ended up being so different from Katniss, and the connections were more made in the settings and the sense of place with District 12 than in the character of Lucy Gray.
I almost felt like Lucy Gray was a knockoff of Katniss. Initially, like when I had that thought, it was
Like when you were
because, like I
reading
said,
it
it was,
initially, like
mhm,
at the reaping,
yeah,
I mean, because I can kind of
I thought
understand
so.
that at the reaping because we're not only in District 12 again, but we're doing a reaping again.
Like I remember reading when she put the snake down Mayfair's dress and then walked up to the stage. I remember just being, maybe it was because the phase of not being a Hunger Games fan was my phase. So that was like when I was in college, in a high school. And I was in college at the time that Ballad came out. And I just felt like this is too theatrical for me. It was really hard for me to follow Ballad, maybe because I was like out of touch with the world of Pan Am and out of touch with all that Suzanne was trying to push when I first read it. But I remember just being like, why the heck is this girl up on stage singing? Like, shut up, to be honest. Like, I was actually really upset. And I remember watching after I finished Ballad, it was painful for me to read the first time and I hated it. But I just really felt like Lucy Gray was the reason why I didn't like Ballad the
Hmm.
first time that I read it. But I take that all back, my queen. I love you now. So
Yeah, I think when I was reading that initially on the first read through of Ballad, I
mhm.
was kind of worried, but for me, the rest of the book all went uphill
Yes.
from there.
Hmm.
So it was fine.
It was fine the second time that I read it with you,
It
like when I
was
read it with
even
other
better the
fans.
second time. I will agree with that statement.
But I also think it's so interesting because when I initially thought that Lucy Gray was a knockoff of Katniss, it took time for me to realize, like, they're not knockoffs, they're literally complete opposites of each
Yeah,
other.
totally
Like,
different ends of the spectrum.
we have on one hand, Lucy Gray is this outspoken, very amicable, very charismatic, very like she's an entertainer, and Katniss is very much not that. And so I thought it was different because or interesting because they both had different results, not only on Panem, but on how they influenced the games. I would argue that, if anything, Lucy Gray contributed to the modernization of the games, whereas Katniss literally led to the destruction of the games. And they were both
Mm.
completely different people, but they came from, in quotes, because Lucy Gray was Covey, but they both came from the same place. They came from the seam.
In a weird way, they both kind of contribute entertainment to the games, though, because I
True.
feel like Katniss came up with something like a strategy that was completely different from anything that the Capitol had seen before. I mean, I guess we don't know
Mhm.
that for sure, but I doubt there was a star-crossed lovers angle that was as strong as Peeta and Katniss's in the past.
Mhm.
So I don't know. It's kind of interesting. She does bring entertainment to the games in a kind
Yeah,
of sort of way.
that's an interesting point. And I also just think it's really interesting too, because we'll get into her name a little bit more, but Lucy Gray is literally like, I feel like she's kind of a morally gray character. Like, we read the first person perspective of Katniss in the original trilogy. If we know what her standards are, we know what her values are, we know what she's attempting to accomplish. But with Lucy Gray, like, we'll get into this, but like, is she the songbird or is she the snake? That's what really separates their characters, is that morally gray area.
I mean, we can talk about that right now if you want
Okay.
to. Is
Oh my
she a
gosh.
songbird or is she a snake? I feel with Choreo, it's so much easier knowing what he becomes, and we're more in his point of view in the book. We know he's a snake,
Hmm.
right? But with Lucy Gray, you're right, she's a gray character, and I'm unsure sometimes whether is she the songbird, is she good, or is she the snake, kind of like evil, manipulative?
I feel like after doing research for this episode, because like this question really fascinates me, and I would argue that the name, like the title, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, is probably the most intelligent and fascinating title of any book I've ever read. It's really interesting because for me, Lucy Gray and Coriolanus are both songbirds and snakes, because like I that's the safe answer. It's not only a love story, it's not only Snow and Lucy Gray's first interaction with what I would assume is love, but it's also Snow's first interaction with outright deceit. And so in that case, like, Lucy Gray is a songbird because of the love, the first sort of love that she brings to his life. And also, she brings this era of Snow, who is completely cautious of deceit and
Mm.
distrust. You know, like, she is the reason this man has trust issues, I feel like.
But I mean, a lot of that is internal on his part.
But I feel like they just play off of each other, especially in the final scene. Like, it's almost like they're both spooked in that final scene. And they just play off of each other's anxieties, because it's just that, oh, I've killed 3 people. She's like, who's the third? You know, just like comments like that, where I feel like they really, really, like, Lucy Gray especially just teaches him to watch his back and to never get close, especially when his decision to marry someone who he doesn't actually love, I think, stems from his relationship to Lucy Gray. And it's interesting because, like, physically, Lucy Gray and Corio both utilize the physical animals, both the songbirds and the snakes. Like, Lucy Gray wins the games by manipulating the snakes. And if you would argue that Coriolanus is the snake, she's literally manipulating Corio, metaphorically. Lucy Gray tries to flee Snow with the help of songbirds in the forest. So she literally like uses these actual animals as tools to survive, which I think is really, really cool.
She loves snakes, even though she doesn't trust them. But
Mm-hmm.
she learns how to use snakes to her advantage. Just like Snow, she uses him to
Uses
her
him.
advantage as well in order to survive. I
Hmm.
think it's so interesting that she knows the difference between poisonous snakes and not poisonous or venomous
Oh.
snakes. And she kind of just miscalculates and thinks that
Hmm.
Snow is a non-venomous snake and he ends up being a poisonous one.
I feel like at the end of the day, in the world of Panem, you have to have characteristics of being a snake and being a songbird to survive. I
Hmm.
feel like you can't just be one or the other, and that's why we have such morally gray characters, is because they both have to contribute this outer shell. Like Coriolanus has to present himself a certain way. Lucy Gray has to present herself a certain way as a songbird. But like internally, you're protecting yourself from this deceit and manipulation and not being a piece in their games because of that snake and that wiser, more like venomous side to yourself.
You know who's a songbird? Madge.
Rest in peace, justice for Madge. Where is my queen?
The Mockingjay pin comes from her family as well, so she's
Okay,
a
are we gonna
songbird.
like talk about like my new theory that
Honestly, we
Lucy
should. I haven't really heard you talk about this.
So I have this new theory. Ever since I listened to Catching Fire on audiobook for the first time, Lucy Gray Donner. Dun dun dun. So from page 91 of Catching Fire, I'm gonna read a little excerpt to set the scene. This is like Madge and Katniss before the big victory tour finale in District 12.
Hmm.
And Katniss and Madge are hanging out, and Katniss says, "Are you sure you don't want the Mockingjay pin back?" And Madge says, "Don't be silly. It was a gift." She tied her hair back in a festive gold ribbon. Katniss says, "Where did you get it anyway?" "It was my aunt's," she said, "but I think it's been in the family a long time." First little note, I was like, okay. And then Katniss says, "It's a funny choice, a Mockingjay. I mean, because of what happened in the rebellion, with the Jabberjays backfiring on the Capitol and all." Then it gives context to the Jabberjays. And then on page 92 of Catching Fire, Madge says, "But the Mockingjays were never a weapon. They're just songbirds, right?" And instantly when heard the word songbirds in the context of Catching Fire, I was like, okay, Miss Girl. And the timeline would add up. Maisley was around 16 years old at the time of the 50th reaping. And so technically Lucy Gray could be Maisley's mother. So we also know that this is me with like my crazy diagrams in the background. The reapings are rigged. It is heavily inferred that the reapings are rigged. Katniss mentions in Catching Fire that an unusually high amount of children of victors have gone into the games. She would mention that potentially because Lucy Gray, if she gave birth to Maisley Donner, they would have known that that was Lucy Gray's daughter. And then they would have been like, "You're going into the arena." But why would they reap her at 16? Oh, because it's the perfect time to have a victor's child in a quarter quell. So I believe that Snow found out and saved Lucy Gray's daughters to be reaped in the quarter quell. End of story.
What? Wait,
Like
so
it's like
let's
that
let's talk
meme of
about the
that guy.
Mockingjay pin. Can we talk about the Mockingjay pin? Like,
Absolutely.
when was that created? That was created by Lucy Gray?
I don't know if she made it because like she's an artsy craftsy girl. I feel like maybe Kate she's crazy. I feel like maybe it like circulated from her family. Like, why specifically do you have a mockingjay? And the fact that like Suzanne mentions the word songbird, they weren't bad, Madge says. They were just songbirds. So I feel like, in a sense, it would be kind of cool to have the image or the idea of the rebellion, which is the Mockingjay pin, the symbol, be from Lucy Gray Baird herself, my
I
songbird.
do like that idea
Just throwing it out there.
that the Mockingjay pin is from Lucy Gray's family.
Yeah. Or like the Covey, I don't know, because, and again, it's like it is talked about, like it's inferred many times throughout Catching Fire, but confirmed at Ballad that the reapings are rigged. And so obviously, Snow, why wouldn't you reap Maisley Donner when she was 12 just to be like, you're gonna die? but to wait until a quarter quell, I don't know. I feel like that would just be like his little cherry on top.
That's so twisted.
So that's my new theory. So that's like what number five? We mentioned four before,
That's
but
fun. I
yeah.
like that. That's a good theory.
I just want to like insert like that meme of that man. I don't know what show it's from, but like he's like looking at the board and behind him there's like all like the different like
Yes.
details connecting.
That's exactly how you just were.
Long story short, maybe she's a Donner. Let's just like scratch the surface with Lucy Gray. We talk about this with every character episode we do. Favorite Lucy Gray quote, book or trailer so far? I was gonna say movie, but we only have the trailer.
I have two.
Mm-hmm.
So my very favorite quote is Corio says, trust is important. And she says, I think it's more important than love. I mean, I love all kinds of things I don't trust. Thunderstorms, white liquor, snakes. Sometimes I think I love them because I can't trust them. And how mixed up is that? I feel like it just describes who Lucy Gray is and where she's at in that moment so
Mm-hmm.
well. She loves danger and being around things that like are kind of dangerous and like maybe can't be trusted. She likes to play with fire and she gets burned.
Yeah, unfortunately. I love that quote. That's a really, really good line. What was your other one?
My other one, you actually brought it up earlier, is the who's the third?
Oh
I
God.
just love that moment. I love that she digs in. I mean, she's
Mhm.
intelligent, she's smart, she's really thinking through things in that moment.
My favorite, I feel like it's not a, I feel like you might have just reminded me of my favorite with that first one, but I like the it's a mystery, sweetheart, just like me. Because even though it's short and
Mm,
sweet, I feel like it just perfectly sums up her character completely. I love Lucy Gray. I literally have her name tatted on me now. And I feel like I just can't understand her. Like I want to understand her, and that's why I'm so excited for the movie is because I want to know more.
I
She is a
love all these
mystery.
double meanings of Suzanne as
Mhm.
well. She's just so good at that
So
because it is
smart.
a mystery at the end of the book.
Mhm.
I mean, it's really cool foreshadowing for that moment.
What are some moments that we love Lucy Gray?
She's an odd character to me. And I feel like
Mhm.
I've found moments where I can relate to her on different rereads of the book, but I like when she feels a little bit more grounded and more real. I guess the moments where I feel like she's not putting on a show. So when Arachne, her throat gets slit, I really
Mm.
like that moment where we see what I feel like can only be genuine emotion from Lucy Gray. She's kind of having a bit of a panic attack and freaking out in that moment. And she tells Coriolanus, like, go, you need to go help her. And I
Mhm.
feel like, I mean, she could also be putting on a show in that moment, but I kind of feel like she isn't. And I feel like that moment just shows what a good person she is. So that's
See,
one I really like.
I totally interpret it differently. I interpret that as being
No,
like
don't say that because don't ruin the moment for me.
I interpret that as her completely putting on a show just because she's trying to get her mentor. He's not only mentoring her, she's mentoring him. And so I
Mm.
think in that moment she's like, "Girl, the cameras are on you, honey. Like you need to like get your act together. People are watching you."
I guess I would think that because I've questioned that too, but I think what
Mhm.
makes me feel that it isn't an act is her kind of panic attack, like right before she's freaking out about what she
Mhm.
just saw. I don't think she could switch to like show mode so quickly after that, unless you think that that's her putting on a show too,
Mhm.
which it could be.
I feel like in that moment, because we know that Lucy Gray has PTSD, she says, like later in the book, she has one foot in the arena at all times. And I feel like maybe because of her past with witnessing like the huge like execution of Covey at large, like her family and stuff, I feel like maybe that was like her first time facing death in the moment.
Mm,
And
something
that
like that
was
again.
like a PTSD shock thing and then snapping into it and being like, how did I survive this last time? That's just how I see it. But like, that's the thing that's so interesting. She's a mystery. She's just,
Yeah, and then I can't wait to see that scene in the movie too, and
mhm,
because that'll probably add even more to my thoughts about what that moment is or isn't.
I want to do like a Lucy Gray episode part two, like after the movie comes out,
Oh
because I
yeah, we
really,
have
really
to.
want to talk about Rachel's performance and that I know is going to be amazing, and Lucy Gray as the character because we're going
And
to learn
whether
so
our
much more.
perspectives on anything changes.
I feel like a moment that the whole fandom has been like bowing at is the Lucy Gray bow from Rachel Zegler in the trailer.
Mm.
That's our first look at Lucy Gray. And I think that was just genius. It's beautiful. Her face, every single time. I've seen Barbie in theaters 7 times, going to see it 8 times. And they played the trailer so much in front of it. I just am captivated when she does that bow and she has that look in her eye. I am like, yes, queen. That
What do
I
I
just
gotta
know.
do to get a valid trailer viewing in
You have
theaters
to come
over
to
here?
Barbie every night with me. That's what you have to do. But I think like trailer wise, movie, like we are so lucky to have Rachel Zegler as Lucy Gray.
Agreed. I'm
Yeah.
so excited. Francis knew what he was doing.
Yeah. I feel like my favorite moments from the book, yours kind of reminded me of that when the arena explodes and she has to make that split decision between
Mm.
helping Choreo out or making a run for it because he notices that like she runs at first and then she like does this look back like what do I do? What do I do? Like just seeing that in the moment decision of this is going to change the outcome of your entire life, and she goes back for him and she helps him. That's the scene where I think that she does it for both out of care but also out of pure survival because she needs him to survive. And if
Mm.
she ran, then she would become Marcus.
Mm. I feel like it's completely survival in that
Yeah,
moment.
really.
I don't think it's really care at all in that moment. I don't know. I don't know. I go so back and forth on these
Hmm.
moments, but 100% if he doesn't make it, that's going to be worse for her
Hmm.
because I think she evaluates in that moment that there's no way she's going to be able to run away. So she doesn't even try. So if somebody's going to live, like it needs to be Choreo because that's her mentor. He's going to do
Hmm.
everything he can to make sure that she wins.
It's interpreted that they love and they care about each other at some points, but at the same time, like they're both doing what they're doing to survive and for the most selfish motives possible.
Mm-hmm.
So
The answer's always both, I
mhm.
think.
It's just like all of the above. It's like when you don't know
Which,
the
like you were
answer.
saying about the title, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, I think Brian has mentioned this before, Panama Archives, that it's very much like Pride and Prejudice or Sense and
Mm-hmm.
Sensibility, those classic Jane Austen novels with those titles that it's both. It's both for the main characters, which is so
Mm-hmm.
cool. Just
That's
makes it feel
very
so
true.
classic.
That's why I feel like this book will age really, really well.
Yeah, I
Um,
think so too.
Especially after the movies, once people start like giving it a little bit more respect, because I was in that same boat, girlies. Like I hated it too, but read it again. I
Read it
promise.
again, watch the movie.
Yeah. But I feel like another favorite part I love is just her interactions with the Cubby. I love her performances. I love her time at the Hob. I don't like I just love that moment when she sees Choreo in the audience for the first time in District 12 and it's just like this is the best day of my life. I don't remember what she says exactly, but something along the best night of my life or something like that.
I think a piece of her character kind of clicks in
Yeah,
that moment, right? Because you see her finally in her element.
that's very true. Yeah. It almost makes her seem more like the songbird. And I think that's where I get a little bit confused, is because she's a snake for survival in the first part of the book, and then in the third part of the book, or the first and the second, and then in the third part of the book, she is more songbirdish to me until the
But it
finale.
could also make her seem more like a snake because it's so clear in that moment that she has stage presence and she knows how to work a crowd.
You and I should just have like this meter in the background. It's like songbird, snake,
Snake,
songbird,
songbird,
snake.
snake.
Because I can't decide. Every single thing it could be interpreted either way,
I
honestly.
know. I love it.
Yeah. I think a really, really fun question to ask is what does Lucy Gray represent, and why did Suzanne write about her?
Well, like we were talking about in our last episode, she really represents romanticism,
Mm-hmm.
right? She's named after the Lucy Gray poem by William Wordsworth, who is considered the father of Romanticism. I wrote down the definition of Romanticism here, which emphasized the individual, the subjective, the irrational, the imaginative, the personal, the spontaneous, the emotional, the visionary, and the transcendental, which is everything that Lucy Gray is.
I think that's just crazy how Suzanne is just so like every single episode we're just like blown away by Suzanne just because she's able to like pull out all of these insane references and even just building a character around the idea of romanticism and encapsulating it fully is really, really cool.
She represents the love of people, I think, and like what they can be. Nature, I guess, like the state of nature being good, although we're saying she's the snake too, so I don't know if she's always romanticism or not.
But I feel like no one can be a full songbird
True. Yeah. You were kind of
because
saying that earlier. Yeah.
yeah, because like in the end, like I feel like everyone can have like a kindness to them, but at the end of the day, like when it comes down to life and death situations, like people are selfish and
Hmm.
people have to like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So
No, that's what I think.
unless you're just like God
Everybody's
or something,
inherently
like
selfish.
yeah,
Hmm.
like you're not everyone's flawed. And so I think that that snake exists in everyone.
You're a songbird, Holly.
Oh, you're so
I'm
sweet.
the snake.
You're the Academy student here, who came dressed in
Clearly.
rainbow and who is literally the Academy student, but slayed anyway.
Oops.
We
Clemencia vibes, with my
need a
headband.
Clemencia
So I'm
episode.
definitely the
Yeah.
snake.
Oh my God. Like literally. I feel like it's really interesting because we haven't really talked about how Lucy Gray wrote The Hanging Tree and is connected to Deep in the Meadow, the Valley Song, and her legacy lives on in her music, which I think is really cool
Mm,
because this music inspires revolution. And so I think it's really cool that Suzanne related The Hanging Tree to Lucy Gray and had her be the creator of the song because in history, like there have been a lot of times where music was used as a form of rebellion. And so to have this song tied back to somebody who really just pushes Snow's buttons and is that Mockingjay and represents everything that Snow doesn't like is really, really, I think, profound.
hmm This is kind of random, but I've been thinking about that scene from the movies a lot where Snow is falling asleep, kind of like passed out, and
Mm.
Egeria, I think,
Mm-hmm.
comes over and is like, Sir, she's actually alive. Like, we found them. And he's like, he starts to freak out and he's like, oh my gosh, show me. I feel like in that moment, I'm just gonna say that he immediately thought of Lucy Gray, thinking back to that and thinking about maybe what if Lucy Gray is still alive? Like I have to see it. I have to see it with my own
Mm.
eyes because it's probably something he's thought about her a lot through the years. Just a random movie scene that I'm like,
That's interesting
I
to give
feel
it
like
new
you
perspective.
watch the movies and it's with such a new light now that you're thinking about Snow and Lucy Gray's relationship. And that's just one that recently I was watching and stuck out to me.
I think like off of that point, a big frustration that I've heard people voice is that they wanted Katniss to be this random everyday person who
Mm,
becomes this face of the rebellion. And even after people have reread Ballad and gotten to know Lucy Gray more, people are a little frustrated that Lucy Gray kind of takes that thunder away from Katniss, like takes that away from the
the,
revolution and
the
what
thing
Katniss
is,
is.
I think she still is. I
No,
don't think
absolutely.
her existence changes Katniss and what Katniss is able to accomplish at
Mm-hmm.
all because Katniss has no knowledge of Lucy Gray.
Mm-hmm. True. I think that's a
Like
good
she
point.
still is this random person, and she is a random person to Snow. Like Snow doesn't know who she is until the hanging tree comes up. But by then, the damage has already been done. Like the revolution is already in full force, like moving forward.
I think that's a good rebuttal towards that because I think it hurts me sometimes because I love powerful women. I'm a sucker for a powerful woman. And I think that Lucy Gray and Katniss, like I said, were clearly opposites. I want there to be like a line of strong individuals who contribute to a revolution. And not just one generation, but multiple generations and legacies. And this song that was created decades and decades ago still
Mm.
was relevant and played a huge role in like
See,
the
I
revolution.
like that though. That makes me like that there is this
Hmm.
prequel where it takes people, revolution didn't just happen.
Yes.
It took generations of people acting and building on top of each other and,
Hmm.
working together in a sense in order to change Panem, in order to take Snow down.
And in the end, like it doesn't take away that Katniss is the face of the rebellion. Lucy Gray
Yeah.
is not, Peeta is not, Gale is not, Coin is not. None of these people are. And I think that's a really good point that Katniss doesn't even know Lucy Gray's name. She doesn't even know her existence and her relationship to Snow. And so, like, that doesn't take away that Katniss is that face, but it can't just all happen from a 16-year-old girl. And it goes to show that, like, a legacy doesn't have to be your name. A legacy is an idea or a song or something that you leave behind and contribute for somebody else to carry on. I just think that's like a beautiful connection between these two women.
And I think Suzanne would agree with that. I don't think she would want this big connection between Lucy Gray and Katniss outside of the hanging tree. I think she knows that keeping them separate is important, which is
Mm-hmm.
why I think they're definitely not related.
I think a big theory that irritates me the most is people saying that Lucy Gray is Katniss's grandma. I think
Mm-hmm.
I will sell my soul on the bet that Maud Ivory is the relationship to Katniss.
Yeah. I have a really random comment about Lucy Gray. Does Lucy Gray give you Taylor Swift vibes?
No, don't bring that into my
No.
universe. Absolutely not. Don't bring that
I
into my
feel
universe.
like she's so similar to Taylor Swift. I mean, I guess every singer writes about their exes, right? But the way that she says she's mysterious, and I feel like, I don't know, Taylor Swift is kind
Instantly.
of mysterious as well. They both love rainbows,
Stop.
right?
Okay, if anyone doesn't know this, Emily loves a good parody. She used to write parody songs for Hunger Games. And I'm gonna throw you under the bus. I feel like your next assignment is to write like blank space or something, but like Lucy Gray.
Sounds
That's
good.
that's your assignment. Right? A Taylor Swift song. Like the first song that came to my head was Blank Space, but like any Taylor Swift song and make it into a Lucy Gray
Oh my
rendition.
gosh. I
Because
gotta
there's
do
like,
a ballad parody because so many of my Hunger Games parodies that I wrote back in the day were from Taylor Swift songs because
iconic.
that's all that was on my sister's iPod. So that's just what I had to work with.
Hmm. I feel like now is a perfect time. And also there's like AI, like lots of people are like making AI use the voice of like in this case Rachel Zegler to like sound sound like she's singing this parody. So I think that's like your next assignment.
Lucy Gray is always kind of dropping hints about stuff, and Taylor Swift is also that way.
I don't think she
I don't
drops
know.
hints. I think that Taylor Swift has interns who just drop hints everywhere and like every fan just has a heyday. Like I feel like they're not even hints at this point. Like I feel like people just like connect random things. Like I just
Maybe
did with
it's just because Rachel Zegler seems to be dropping hints about stuff like Taylor Swift, and
that's
so
true.
equating the two.
Can you please release like a poll to see like does Lucy Gray give you Taylor Swift vibes? Because I'm really curious if people
I'm
agree.
posting it. I'm
Yeah,
posting it.
perfect.
Answer's
But
gonna be yes. It's just a feeling.
iconic. I know I'm the big no, but it's okay. So speaking of Rachel Zegler, it is the week of August 14th was like the beginning of the week, 15th, I don't know. It is the week that Rachel Zegler has received so much hate and backlash and disgust. Like, we made videos, we've talked about it. I've been in the trenches commenting to idiots.
You have.
And I've blocked many people and I've received many mean comments. And I just think, just shut the bleep up, guys. You are all
Honestly,
dummies. Literally, don't have time for you, not even going to acknowledge you. If you're a Rachel Zegler hater because of the stupid Snow White stuff going around, get away. Stop telling her to do all these mean things. You got her to deactivate her Twitter. You got her to get rid of Instagram. Just back off and stop spreading hate. End of the PSA. She is going to be perfect.
watch how fast people flip when the
Yes.
Hunger Games comes out.
We need to talk about, why is Rachel Zegler the perfect Lucy Gray? And I feel like, instantly look at the bow in the trailer, but then listen to her accent. I love Jennifer Lawrence and I love everything that they did in the movies, the first movies, but she did not have that accent, that Appalachian accent. And that's very, very, very important. Suzanne mentions it in the books, and Lucy Gray has it, and Rachel does a freaking incredible job. She makes it sound like it's not like in your face, but it's
Mhm.
like it's a Southern accent and it's
It sounds
phenomenal.
good to me. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm definitely not the best judge of the accent since I'm not familiar with it, but I know that Jerry on Tribute Talk, Taylor on Tribute Talk were saying that it sounded really good to them and they would know. So,
So, to all you haters, stop it. She's iconic. So, I'm excited to hear this voice. I'm excited to see her as Lucy Gray. I am captivated every time I watch the trailer. Lucy Gray is my highlight. So,
yeah, so good. I mean, after seeing the trailer, I mean, we had talked about she was the one who was the standout for
mhm.
me, which I did not expect at all because Lucy Gray, I mean, I like her, but she's not my favorite character from the book. And from the moment she was cast, I was most excited about her singing voice. So I
Mhm.
know, like, that's just a huge, exciting thing to come. I just can't wait to hear her sing these
Yeah.
songs.
I'm excited to really see her covey performances. I think Rachel has a beautiful voice. Like, literally, no more hate, because watch West Side Story. She's phenomenal. She literally was cast, what was it, at 17, straight out of high school.
Watch her Shrek performance. It is so
Iconic.
good, I promise.
This queen is insane. And I don't want Ballad to be over. Like, I want to be in the theaters watching it, but like at the same time, I don't want it to be happening.
Mm,
But like, I cannot wait to see the final sequence between her and Snow. Oh,
it's gonna
so
be so
good.
good. It's all gonna be so good. I'm so excited.
And it's not like, to end on this note, it's not a Lucy Gray episode if we don't give credit where credit is due to the rainbow dress. It is everything I could have ever wanted and more. It is nothing I ever expected, but it is beautiful.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane.
It's everything I didn't know I needed,
No,
really.
exactly. Like, and seeing it in person, like seeing the snakes and the flowers on the chest piece, and like, oh, the ruffles, and oh, it's just
The
so
like
perfect.
muted colors,
Yes.
the
And the
subtle
fact that,
rainbow of the whole dress.
oh, it's so good. And
It's
I'm
good.
just happy that they are having the tributes wear their clothes that they came with into the arena. That was like a big concern I had, was that they
Mm.
would put them in like costumes or arena outfits.
Did I tell you about the dream that I had once that we were all in that arena, and we were wearing like stripes, like prison outfits?
What, were they like orange or what?
But
Black and
the
white?
stripes went up and down.
Oh,
No,
okay.
it was like a grayish color.
Oh my God. Lucy Gray. So who won?
Valid
Did anyone
dreams.
win the games in your
I
dream
don't
or
know. I
what?
woke up before that. It was just like
Mm.
the bloodbath part, and then it was over.
Okay, where was everyone in your dream? I'm curious. Like, where was Jerry? Where was Ronnie? Where was Taylor?
I feel like you were next to me.
We're allies, of course, until
Yeah,
you
yeah,
stab
of
me in the
course.
back at the end. I'm like, do you want to do berries? And then you're like,
All the way to the end. Yeah.
and I'm like, yeah, totally. Good thing we're allies. So, I mean, we could have ended up instead of the rainbow dress, we could have ended up with some striped prison suits for the arena. So, thank you that we're not getting that.
Glad my unconscious was not in charge of that decision.
But seriously, there is so much to look forward to with Rachel Zegler's performance, with seeing Lucy Gray come to life on screen. I am just anticipating every little thing I get about Lucy Gray. Do you have any final remarks about my queen before we end the episode?
I don't know. Songbird or a snake? Comment down below.
And does Lucy Gray give off Taylor Swift vibes? That's like the new thing
Yeah,
I'm
that's
gonna
what I
think
really want to
about.
know. I feel it.
We'll post like a poll. Love Lucy Gray, iconic queen. Um, and then just like a gentle reminder, if you haven't already, pre-order your ballad calendar from Amazon. This is not sponsored by any means, but
Never is.
I'm just like, girl, go get your ballad merch right now
I pre-ordered
because
mine. I'm gonna
yeah,
be counting
exactly.
down the days to ballad. That's what I need it for.
Yeah, exactly. Just like circle, big circle. So everyone go get your beautiful calendar coffee and join us for Tribute Talk this week, 6:30 Pacific, 9:30 Eastern. Keep checking your texts for updates about the Ballad movie because we're all Academy students, so we need to be
Yeah, check out
updated.
our Academy celebration
It was
if you
so
weren't there
fun.
live. Yeah, it should be just up on YouTube.
We got special messages from two very important people that you will not want to miss. So check that out, and we will see you next time for episode 68.
See ya.
Bye.